Hello. Thank you for watching Taxpayer Alert. I'm Al Segalla, President of the Calaveras County Taxpayer Association, and I'll be your moderator this session, which is our 13th session. And our guest this time is Jeff Davidson. He's director with the Calaveras County Water District. And Jeff, welcome aboard.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me, and I appreciate all you guys do for the Calaveras County taxpayers. But thanks again for having me to talk about water issues.
Yeah, you have so many talents, it's hard to narrow it down for a half-hour program. I understand you're also president of the Calaveras County Chamber of Commerce.
This is my second term. It's ending in a couple of weeks at our installation dinner, and I will be thankful for that. I really enjoy the chamber. I actually like that work a lot. I like the people there, and but it's my business is taking me farther and farther away, so it's just hard for me to continue that. But I really enjoy working with the chamber also.
Oh, I certainly agree. I used to be a chamber director before your term, and I really enjoyed the people in the chamber.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
Now, you've been with the Water District since 1999, and this is your fourth term.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit why you got attracted to water.
Well, I was not so unlike the Joe Kellys of the world. Back in 1999, my parents had bought some property in an assessment district in the Valley Springs area called Assessment District 604. And the more I got to know about what they had purchased, they had bought quite a few connections for water and sewer to this assessment district. And the more I got to know about it, the less I had trust and faith in the water district. And so I started to attend meetings. And I was one of those angry guys that would stand up and say, you know, you're incompetent or you're corrupt. There's one of those two things. And somebody told me one day to put my money where my mouth was. So I ran, and I found that I enjoyed the work. I think I have turned the district around significantly from back then, so it just fits the ability for me to serve and the time I have to serve. The water district fits it really well. So that's how I got started. But I continue to be interested in the subject today. It's an incredible resource in Calaveras County, and it's never a dull day in the water business.
What are some of the things you've enjoyed since you've been a director with the district?
Well, there's been quite a few things. I mean, in the beginning, it was really just they were mired in a lot of legal action. This is I'm talking 14 years ago. It was nice to put an end to that, and it was challenging. There was some heated. Back then, they used to call it the hot water district. It's a little more calm now, but so I enjoyed that turnaround. I've enjoyed seeing the community grow and the challenges associated with that, and trying to keep up with the demand. And then, even in the downturn, it's been interesting and challenging, but also fulfilling to make sure we can balance our budget, keep everything working, and move forward, with a declining population and a declining budget and things like that. Probably more than anything, I have great admiration for the majority, if not all, of the staff at CCWD. They're hardworking, intelligent people. I enjoy my fellow directors. We are engaged in a lot of statewide issues now, which is very interesting and very important. So, I think for the most part, I just enjoy going to work at the Water District 2 days a week, 2 days a month. I don't actually work there. I only go there 2 days a month. So.
Well, you probably do a lot in those sessions that would mean almost like a full-time job. One of the things that, some of the challenges that you face, you mentioned litigation. What's the nature of most of this litigation, and what was done to get beyond that?
Well, you're talking about things that happened 14, 15 years ago. One of the issues, when I first came on board, there was the district had hired a company to install a pipe in the Ebbets Pass area. It was called the Techite pipe, and they were embroiled in a lawsuit. And again, I hate to even talk about this because it's so long ago,
Yeah.
and it's really immaterial now. But the pipe was inferior. The district at the time, I had nothing to do with that. I'm sure they had no idea that it would be an inferior product. But it's interesting that they were involved in a lawsuit to try to recoup money for that pipe. It never materialized, and it eventually was dropped. We were sending a lot of money to Sacramento with no result. But we're actually repairing that pipe today, 14 years later, completely. We're tearing the whole thing out and redoing it. And that was part of our recent rate increase, was to manage some of those issues, those outstanding issues like that. And then some of their other problems were the board just, had too much power in their head, and they had a litigious nature, and they shouldn't have, because it's not their money.
Right.
It's the people's money, and that's how they need to handle it. And that's what we do now. We don't have. When I first got on the board, I think the year previous we had a $4 million legal budget, not a legal budget, legal expenses. We're not. We don't get in lawsuits anymore. I mean, we don't have those issues. We have, as much as any other company would have as far as personnel and things like that. But we're not out seeking it. We defend ourselves well. We prepare well. We have a good legal team on hand. So it's an insignificant issue now. And I hope to keep it that way.
Oh, that's good, because I'm a ratepayer,
Yeah,
and
right.
I don't want my rates going up anymore.
Well,
Now,
I don't know that'll happen.
Speaking about water rates and water supply, this is our second year, I think, of drought conditions. We don't know what the third year is going to do, but what are your thoughts on what's coming up with that?
Well, rates and drought are unrelated,
Right.
until an agency seeks to curtail use by a penalizing rate structure. Okay. And that's what's just happened in Sacramento just yesterday. And there definitely is pressure. I'm not a proponent of trying to conserve water by penalizing people for using it. I think that's ridiculous, particularly in our county, because we are a very water-rich county. We have probably more water rights per capita than anybody else in the state. Unfortunately, we don't use a lot of our water rights. But that being said,
now your rights to government water, is that right? Like from New Melones?
We have rights to our water.
Okay, for your own watershed.
Calaveras County owns water rights, a significant amount. Hundreds of thousands of acre feet on Stanislaus, 30-some thousand on the Calaveras, which is stored in Hogan, and 19,000, which is shared with CPUD on the McCullamy.
Okay.
So we are a very water right rich area. But getting back to the drought issues, we will probably go into some sort of volunteer rationing. I can't tell you that it's necessary for Calaveras County this year, but the rest of the state will probably be in it. We may be required to do it. There's already a current state mandate that's been several years old, that everybody in the whole state reduce their use by 20%. So there are several ways to do it. I would just like to ask our folks to, particularly if you're going to do landscaping this year, don't do anything that's going to be water. It's going to need a great deal of water. Find a different kind of landscaping. Try artificial turf grass. They have some great products now. Because I hate to see people make a big investment and then have to lose it if say 2-3 years from now we continue the drought. Well, then people will be required to do significant water rationing. Yeah. But it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. Yeah, so we should be prepared for that.
Okay, that's good information to know. The cost of service, connection charges and rates, and what's the difference in where they go, and what do we use grant funding for What do we use grant funding for as it relates to water rates?
Well, let me just, I'll go back to your original question. You see several things. There was an article in the paper just the other day about we were reducing the connection charges in the Abbott's Pass area. Now, connection charges are what you pay when you first connect to the system. When you build your house, you pay a connection fee for water or sewer or water if you have a septic tank. And they're calculated based on, you have say you have a $4 million treatment plant, and you have 400 connections, so your capacity charges is $10,000. What we found in the Abbott's Pass area recently, and we were able to reduce the connection charge, which was, I don't know that it's ever happened before that a connection charge has been reduced, but we've got a decade of real numbers that the water usage is continuing to decline. And the way we calculate it is average gallons per day equals equivalent single-family dwelling unit. And so we've found that we actually have more capacity in the treatment plant in Abbott's Pass than we originally thought when we did our early engineers estimates. So we were able to change that multiple to a higher number on the capacity charge, which brought the connection charge down. And we're looking at La Quintana Sewer now, and we're updating our master plans. We have every one of our systems has a master plan, and we're going to go one by one and go through these and see if we're still accurate. And we try to do those every 5 years. I think we may be up in the 7-8 year range right now because things were tight recently. We didn't have the funds to do it. Now rates are operation. We have an operation budget of about $15 million. Annually,
right?
And the rates are basically it's $15 million divided by our ratepayers,
right?
And so that's how we pay for the operation and maintenance of the existing facilities. Capacity fees, connection charges pay for new facilities. They pay for treatment plants, things like that. Rates pay for operation, maintenance, testing. All those things, salaries, payroll, that sort of thing.
How many gallons a day you mentioned? I forgot what you said. How many gallons a day?
Well, our old estimate was 750 per day per household.
750 per home.
Per home,
okay.
And we found that we're well below that, and so we were able to reduce that.
Oh, really?
But getting back to your question about grants, we've been tremendously successful seeking grant funds, and I know a lot of people say well, you should never take a grant. I said, well, I'll stop going after grants as soon as I stop paying my federal income taxes, because that is what we do. Most of these regulations are brought on by the state or the federal government, and when they ask for a regulation and don't want to help us accomplish it, then all of that burden will be on the ratepayer. I think we've probably got close to $14 million in the last 4 years for different grant projects. Vallecito, we got a $4 million grant to upgrade their sewer system. They were a disadvantaged community. We have a lot of success in disadvantaged communities. Very little success in communities that aren't disadvantaged. West Point, we just got a nice grant for the water system up in West Point. Ginny Lynn, we got I think about $800,000 to bring the system out of the flood area, because we've had some floods on Cosgrove Creek, and we've raised that. And then the latest grant that I'm really excited about is we're getting a grant to replace the redwood tanks up in the Abbott's Pass area, which is a very, very important thing. If fire were to go through Abbott's Pass like it went through my neighborhood in Rancho Calaveras, it actually burnt down 2 of the water tanks, and we had to shut the water service off during the fire because of the contamination issue.
Oh, wow.
So we've got a grant, originally thanks to Congressman Lundgren and now Congressman McClintock, to replace those redwood tanks with steel tanks, and it's a hugely important thing. It's just been, those tanks are 40-some years old.
Now, if you didn't have the government grants, well, by the way, I understand the federal government is bankrupt, and there may be a moral question of taking money from a bankrupt entity. But aside from that...
Well, I sleep well at night because it's either that or I could take it from my bankrupt friends.
Well,
like you. I'm not saying you're bankrupt, but morally maybe.
Well, if if the government grants money were not there, then the next alternative would be a bond issued for major infrastructure expenditures. Wouldn't that be the case? I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, it'll come from the residents.
From the people that
There's no other source.
The people that use it will be
Right.
paying for it,
Right.
maybe long-term with a bond issue or something
Right,
like that.
Alan, and I'll tell you, I would estimate that, not just, because Calaveras County Water District doesn't serve, the whole county. We are a countywide water district, we have the authority to do it, but there are 30 or 40 small little utility districts from the City of Angels Camp to Valley Springs Public Utility District. There's a lot of private water agencies. I bet if I were to throw a number at the needs of infrastructure replacement in Calaveras County, it would be in the $300 million range.
Wow.
I mean, it's a significant number, and that is one of the reasons that we had to go and take a hard look at our rate structure, because we were not collecting enough money to replace that infrastructure. The thing about water and sewer systems is they're not just here for 20 years or 30 years, they're here forever. And other agencies are going to have to start planning like that too. I think if you would ask some of those other agencies that I've mentioned, there's even up in Murphy's, they have their own little districts up there. If you were to ask them how much money they're putting away to replace the 40-year-old pipes that are in the ground today, their answer would be not nearly enough, if anything at all.
It might be dependent on a grant.
Well, you can't depend on grants solely. I mean, because again, all it takes is a different frame of mind in Washington, and those grants will dry up. When they're available, I think it's in our best interest for our ratepayers to seek them.
I understand.
And we do, and we're very successful at it. Our staff does a terrific job there.
In land use planning, I attended the workshop on the water element for a general plan, and I noticed that there were some wonderful people in that room that are really knowledgeable, and there was some excellent discussion. The discussion was facilitated or moderated along certain predetermined outcomes. There were predetermined outcomes that they wanted to have, and there was no discussion on the constitutional issues in whereby a district would be responsible for planning its own future. The discussion went more toward the county through the general plan absorbing some of the long-range planning in the general plan, which is enforced by the planning department using the police power. And so there could have been some real discussion about that, and maybe some more thought. But that's just my point of view, which is a minority point of view. But what are your thoughts about the land use planning and its relationship to water?
Well, it's critical, and it's unfortunately I don't feel that it's being addressed properly as we're going through this general plan process. I know I've met personally with the planning director and gone over their land use maps, and I've insisted that our staff try to integrate the areas that we can serve water and sewer service and have those areas be the areas that develop. But what the planning staff has chosen, and I have to admit I haven't been in contact with them for the last few months, but prior to that.
Well, they've been changing personnel.
Well, yeah, they have. But prior to that, I saw the land use maps, and I actually saw areas that they were putting into resource production in my neighborhood, which resource production is 40-acre minimum parcel.
Right.
I'm not sure what resource they're going to produce on that.
Cows.
2 cows. But those are actually lots that we had water and sewer service on.
Right.
And that was getting back to that assessment district that I was talking about earlier. The county needs to develop in the areas that we can serve water and sewer service adequately. The rural development on wells and septics, I think that's on the landowner. It's their choice to do what they want. But the reality is we need more customers to bring the cost of service down, and those customers are going to be created in areas where we can logically serve the community. I'll give you a couple examples. In the latest land use maps that I saw, Vallecito becomes one of the highest densities communities in the county, according to the new land use map. The intersection of Burson, Highway 12 and Burson Road, where there's no water, where the wells are producing. We actually have people trucking water. They come over to our treatment plant, get water, take it back to their homes. They live in that Burson area.
Right.
They have that intersection being developed into 12 units per acre, which I don't know how they'll accomplish that because
that doesn't make sense.
it doesn't make sense. And I've spoken till I'm blue in the face, and I'm hopeful that under the new leadership of the planning department, they'll take a hard look at that land use map and come up with something that's a lot more logical for our future. Because the thing that people don't understand is when we have to go defend our water rights, we have to defend them with a realistic growth plan, which is the general plan.
Right.
And right now, we don't feel we can defend keeping all the water that we have rights to, because the county does not seem to want to grow or even promote the industry enough for us to defend and utilize that water.
Well, our Taxpayer Association really agrees with you on that. We're concerned about our local economy. There seems to be an anti-business climate.
Well, and water really is the key. Again, it's an infrastructure problem. It's not a supply problem. Calaveras County is blessed with abundant water resources. We own one of the largest hydroelectric facilities in the state, the North Fork project. That's operated by Northern California Power Authority, but it's ours. We have hundreds of thousands of acre feet of water rights on the Stanislaus River. We have to begin to show that we can put this to beneficial use, or the Bay Delta project is going to take that water. It's really I believe our future could be water-based. Just imagine if we could take water a mile in each direction along Murphy's. If we could actually irrigate, or if we could irrigate the west end of the county. There's this guy from Bronco Franzia Winery, or Bronco Winery, is developing thousands of acres just on the other side of where Trinitas used to be on the west end of the county. They're putting in huge thousands of acres of vineyards and orchards being developed right now as we speak. And there isn't any reason why he couldn't be on our side of the county line, except that we have to be able to show that we could provide him surface water and not groundwater.
Is there any engineering that you know of that where you can take some of the surface water and maybe through a leach field system or some sort of percolation, move that directly to groundwater?
Yeah, we look at that all the time. We've been looking at groundwater recharge in the Wallace area. We were looking at it at Trinitas. We still think that is a big part of the solution, particularly in my neighborhood where the San Joaquin Basin, which is just a big giant bowl, is declining a foot a year, and in years like this, perhaps even more. But we think that's the solution is 1 acre foot at a time. We got to start replacing that aquifer, storing that water for future use, and we think that's part of the solution. Unfortunately, it comes down to money. Where's our return? Because we don't necessarily have the demand. I'll give you an example of our demand. Right now, in my neighborhood, there at Hogan Reservoir, we have 30,000 acre foot of reservation, 31,000. We're currently using about 4,400 acre feet. And so we have 26,000 acre feet that we could utilize within the county. We can't sell it out of the county. That's a contractual thing that happened in the 70s. Right. But we could develop that. We could put it in the ground and use it. It has value. It's just a very, very difficult thing and very expensive. And it almost always requires federal grants or federal interest to make it economically viable.
Or some sort of financing.
Well, if you can tell me what some sort of financing is besides that, I'd be happy to listen.
Well, if the principle of use or pay were to be considered, you'd think you would go to the people that would use the water. In this case, it would be people with wells, or people in the future would want wells. They would have an interest in having adequate.
Well, that I'll just tell you, that's been tried, and generally the landowners reject that. It's one of those things. It's nobody knows the value of water until they don't have it.
Well, that's true. I can understand that. Okay, so groundwater recharging is a possibility?
Oh, absolutely.
And-
It's a proven science. It works, and we'd love to be part of it. And we are in conversations all the time with East Bay Mud and Stockton and San Joaquin Interest. We're constantly in conversation with them about it.
The other potentiality is direct capture water through some sort of waterproof membrane, where that water, instead of going underground, would go directly to tanks after being filtered or something like that.
Well, again, we don't have the need for that. We're
not that desperate yet.
No, we're not desperate at all.
Yeah. In other words, our problem is not water supply.
No.
Okay. One of the things that Tuolumne County Water District was concerned about was the level of regulation that the state is doing, the Department of Water Resources. And there was some discussion in the chamber there about maybe lobbying for some reform to make it so that it be more reasonable regulation and be less hurtful to the ratepayers.
I got this bulletin at our last meeting on Wednesday. There's 82 bills being proposed in the House and Senate in California right now that are related to water.
Now, are the bills pro-freedom, or are they for more regulation?
Well, Al, you know the makeup of California. You know the answer to that, and I'm sure the people that watch your program know the answer to that.
Well,
there are a few. I mean, there's some issues in here that I think are positive, but I don't think they'll get any traction. You know.
Okay. So that is a big task that we need to do, and it goes back to the ratepayer who simply needs to communicate to their representatives that they're concerned about these issues.
Right. Well, unfortunately, the power of people in Calaveras County versus the power of people in San Diego or Los Angeles, we don't have any.
Yeah.
You know,
The cities rule.
The city, the urban areas rule,
Yeah.
and we have to comply with the same regulations that they do, and they're onerous. And particularly when we're talking about, we've got 17,000 ratepayers in Calaveras County where they have, 1.7 million.
Yeah.
But we test water exactly the same as they do. We have to comply with all the same regulations.
Well, as we're getting down to our 2-minute period, how do you see the future of Calaveras County in regards to water? What do you see coming up ahead for us?
Well, one thing I want to say is I want to give a couple of our board members credit. Bob Dean and Don Stump have really taken on significant levels of leadership at the state level, trying to bring our lobbying efforts forward with Aqua and Mountain Counties. They've both taken leadership roles in that, and I think that's helpful for us. I think there are a lot of challenges. I think that the future of Calaveras County economics needs to be water-centric. It's our greatest natural resource that we have an abundance of, but we're going to need innovative ideas, and we're going to need the financing. But I think Calaveras County is certainly water healthy, but we're infrastructure poor. And so I would just tell you that I think the future at CCWD is fine, because I think we did the hard work, which is we had to raise rates to pay for replacement of these systems. The smaller utilities in the county, I would tell you, are in deep trouble. And I don't think any of them could tell you with a straight face that they're going to be able to fix all the stuff that they have broken.
Well, we certainly have challenges, and we certainly appreciate you being with us,
Well, thank you
Jeff.
for having me. I appreciate it.
And we thank you for watching Taxpayer Alert.